And I'm like, I mean, come on. Let's have a little, I know I'm misbehaving here, but I'm not at this level, at the level they're throwing me out. It just felt like, so that became a frustration.
1980 Wimbledon, you end up in this epic battle in the final.
Yeah.
You thought you knew Johnny Mac? Think again. Forget everything you thought you knew about the man with the temper and the world-class backhand. We're going deep inside the life and career of probably the most controversial man in tennis, from on-court antics to the soft side few ever had any clue existed. You knew that his dad was his manager, right? And McEnroe dropped the bomb about his career that no one saw coming? Stay tuned, as we are yet to unravel more drama right here on the court. It's February 1959, a year of poodle skirts and Elvis Presley. And then, pow, a little ball of fire named John McEnroe Jr. exploded into this world. Born in Germany? You don't say. Talk about a global star right from the get-go. Dad was throwing missiles for the Air Force, so little Johnny boy was probably chasing planes in the crib. Flash forward a few years, and the little terror found himself in New York City, the great concrete jungle. Queens, for that matter, a breeding ground for tough, gritty champions, if you ask me. At 8 years old, he was already trading volleys with his imaginary opponents. This kid was destined for greatness. Mark my words. At 8, just 8, hitting ground strokes on the Douglaston Club courts. The fact is, I probably couldn't even tie my shoes at his age. Well, not Johnny Mac. No siree, he's out there plotting his takeover of the tennis world. His folks watch this raw talent and decide it's time to raise the stakes. The Eastern Lawn Tennis Association? No problem. Regional tournaments? Breezes through them. National juniors? Walks in the park. Before you know it, he's only 12 years old, and this kid is one of the top players in the world. We're talking about a future Grand Slam champ here, people. Someone who'd change the game forever. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There's a whole lot of drama, sweat, and, well, tons of probably thrown in here. McEnroe didn't just play tennis, he owned it. 5 Davis Cup titles. Can you say winning the World Series 5 years back-to-back? Oh, and he was the captain of the team. But come on, guys, it wasn't all about the game for McEnroe. He was a character, a legend for what he did on the court, for sure, but also for his sharp tongue and even sharper opinions. This guy was riveting for all the right and wrong reasons. Love him or hate him, he kept tennis exciting. Before we dive on and off the court, make sure to like and subscribe. And now, back to the video. John McEnroe, the tennis great whose temper seemed as fiery as his backhand, was pitched up to talk to the equally explosive Nick Kyrgios. With the microphone at a chatting distance, naturally, their thoughts turned to one of the most iconic tennis moments in history. We're talking about that Wimbledon outburst, you know. You cannot be serious. McEnroe had exploded in a volcanic eruption of frustration across the hallowed lawn of center court. That, in tennis terms, is the moment etched in lore, the defining chapter in the McEnroe story.
It was the wrong side.
The ball chalk came up all over.
No, it was a bit of a spread, Mr. McEnroe. That was a good call.
Excuse me?
That was a bit of a spread.
Look, you can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious! That ball was on the line. Chalk flew up.
Kyrgios, always the intriguing character, probed whether McEnroe ever once looked back at that moment and wished it had been someone else who would take the crown as tennis's ultimate tantrum thrower. So what we do know is that McEnroe's dad is very much likely to have been Mr. Cool. And a lawyer, oh. Can you just imagine having a dad for a lawyer? I mean, imagine the family dinners. This guy tried to keep his hot-headed son in check. "John, just play the bloody game," he would tell him, shaking his head in despair. "Don't give the umpires any ammo." But such is McEnroe, a firecracker just biding his time. So finally he blows. Take Wimbledon in 1981, packed crowd, sunny day, and here's McEnroe tangling with Tom Gullickson. All's well and good until, well, all hell breaks loose when an umpire dares to call out McEnroe. I mean, have you ever been that mad before? You know, that veins-popping, face-turning red mad? That's McEnroe for you. You cannot be serious, he roars. The crowd goes wild. I bet even the pigeons on the center court roof were startled. And he didn't stop there. Incompetent and blind, he shouts at the umpire. This was a supernova of emotions, a moment that has been replayed a million times. This was the tennis equivalent of the moon landing. You had to be there, or at least watch it on TV. Fast forward some years, and the fiery redhead has turned in his racket for diapers. Fatherhood, it seems, is the ultimate lesson in tennis. Suddenly, instead of screaming at umpires, he's cooing at babies. He swapped the drama of the court for the much calmer waters of the commentary booth. No more, you cannot be serious, why outbursts, just thoughtful analysis. It's like watching a lion become a librarian. But he still drew in some criticism now and then for his tennis commentary. In an interview with NPR, they had asked him about the greatest tennis players, and rather than just give Serena Williams the crown she deserves, he goes and drops this bomb. If she played the men's circuit, she'd be like 700 in the world. Serena wasn't about having any of McEnroe's crap. Basically, she was telling him to cool his jets and wish some other bitch in the room wouldn't involve her. After all, can you imagine being knocked up and having to deal with that kind of stuff? All done with poise. And it is so ironic that Serena has talked so much about the differences between the men's and women's game. So McEnroe wasn't totally out of bounds, but just the way he said it. Instead of dialing back and apologizing, McEnroe doubled down and suggested that men and women play together. What the heck? I know. Crazy, huh? Typos aside, it is fun to think about, but the physical differences are enormous.
I've got a solution, Gail, though, because I know that you're friendly with Serena, and I think at least until yesterday,
I'm clutching the table right now.
I'm just waiting. Would you like to apologize?
No. But the offer is this, is because it seems in tennis, unlike other sports, that they're always asking about how women, they always ask me how I would do for someone. Why isn't this old bag John McEnroe, how would he do against Serena? Why don't you combine, just solve the problem? I'm sure the men would be all for this. The men and women play together.
That's a tricky one. Serena is a legend of the game and commands respect. McEnroe is always good for a headline or two. Wimbledon was typical, some would say, for 2023. The super brat truly became guns blazing in some of the comments. The man cracked more jokes than a sailor would have blushed at. He ripped into umpires like they cost him a buck. Remember when he was trying to compare cricket and tennis in the middle of a Jabir match and then threw in an inappropriate joke and follow-up during live commentary? Classic Johnny Mac. Baldy wasn't too happy, though. But hey, that's just fuel to the fire. And of course, his meltdown when Djokovic got a point penalty. Absolutely fuming, when one could almost feel the court shaking with one of his rants. What a lot of smack coming from a former tennis player, you might think. All right, but Johnny Mac carries around the credentials and results to be able to say such things. First off, the guy was a tennis genius. His volleys were something to marvel at. His backhand was a work of art. His court sense was uncanny. He used to be able to read shots better than anybody in the world. And oh, by the way, he was left-handed, which gives you every advantage in the world. You remember that epic match versus Borg at Wimbledon in 1980? The fourth set tiebreak was pure madness. McEnroe saved like 5 match points. It was one of the greatest tennis matches ever played. And then, of course, he beat Borg at the U.S. Open that same year. That was a huge deal. But there was more to him than simple talent. McEnroe was taken to the court like electric energy. He was a bit like a rock star, and people seemed to love or hate him. And let's be honest, he made tennis so exhilarating that we kind of secretly loved to hate him just a bit. He's been on all the big networks, too. ESPN, CBS, NBC, USA, and he does Wimbledon for the BBC. One of the finest pieces from Johnny Mac, even to this day, was the chip on his shoulder, which still sees him through raking in criticism for embracing tennis commentary. But at 65, he seems to be managing the backlash coming from left and right, handling it like a true champ. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, then do check out the rest of our videos about other tennis icons